Oh, let's see how it goes.
Today, we're opening up a really fascinating set of sources.
Yeah, it's quite the contrast.
It really is. On one hand, you've got the very precise foundational texts from traditional Christian theology,
Yeah,
very established.
yeah.
And then on the other side, wow, it's this unique kind of sprawling spiritual interpretation.
Definitely. It pulls in elements from, well, New Age thought, mythology, even these dimensional concepts.
It's quite a mix. We see the Bible's narrative, Jesus, Mary, Joseph, right alongside terms like soul evolution and star seeds.
Mm-hmm. It's a striking juxtaposition. You have one system deeply rooted in specific historical events, the virgin birth, the resurrection, very singular.
Right, unique moments in time.
And then this other framework takes those same figures and sort of reframes them. They become templates almost for a universal evolving consciousness.
Giving those different terms you mentioned.
Exactly. Soul evolution, star seeds. It completely recontextualizes the whole story.
So our mission today really is to try and cut through that complexity for you, the learner.
Yeah, provide some clarity.
We want to dive deep into both frameworks so you can clearly see, okay, this is what the traditional biblical sources actually state.
Versus how these, let's say, unique spiritual systems are interpreting those same figures and events. They're using a totally different lens.
A lens of dimensions and universal connection, it seems.
Precisely. It's about understanding the structure, the core assumptions of each viewpoint. That's really the key to navigating this.
Okay, let's unpack this then.
Where should we start?
Well, the most immediate split seems to be how they.
Where should we start?
Well, the most immediate split seems to be the idea of life, death, salvation.
Absolutely, that's ground zero for the divergence.
Yeah.
If we look at the traditional Christian tenets first,
Ground
zero. Everything is defined by that singular historical
Christian tenets first, birth of Jesus.
That's right. The sources really emphasize this. For mainstream Christianity, coming straight from the Gospels of Matthew and Luke, Jesus' birth is a miraculous event. Full stop.
And the core of that is the virgin birth.
Exactly. The belief that Mary was pregnant through the Holy Spirit, that makes Jesus divine, unique, right from conception. It's central.
So that specific unrepeatable event is like the anchor for the whole theology.
Mm-hmm. But then you look at the spiritual interpretation we're analyzing.
Yes, completely.
Totally. It views Jesus, Mary, and Joseph less as unique divine actors in history and more like, well, the source calls them a combination of medium and psychic.
Medium and psychic, so like human vessels.
Yeah, demonstrating a kind of advanced spiritual access. Human potential realized, maybe.
Okay, that's fascinating. How do they justify that kind of reclassification?
Well, one specific point they make is about Mary. They describe her as having a childlike mind, and they claim this allowed her to access a divine realm.
A childlike mind for divine access. Is that in the Bible?
Good question. The source material is very quick to point out that no, this specific idea, accessing a divine realm, because of a literal childlike mind that's not found in the Bible.
But I feel like there's that famous passage, Matthew 18.3, where Jesus says you have to become like little children to enter the kingdom. Maybe that's what they're referencing.
That's likely the connection they're making, yeah. But this is where the interpretation really differs.
How so?
Traditionally, theologians understand that passage as a call for spiritual qualities: humility, innocence, trust. It's about your disposition, your attitude towards God. A metaphor, really.
Okay, like be humble and trusting like a child.
Exactly. But this spiritual interpretation seems to take it more literally, more functionally. Like the childlike mind is an actual tool, a frequency receiver for higher truth.
So it moves from being a moral instruction to almost a spiritual technology.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. And that subtle shift has huge downstream effects.
Especially for what happens after death.
Absolutely. Mainstream Christian theology is explicit. Reincarnation is not a core belief. It teaches that after death, you face judgment.
Leading to heaven or hell. End of story for that life.
Right. Whereas this other spiritual interpretation, it's entirely built on the idea of continuous progress, conscious progress.
That's where soul evolution comes in.
Precisely. That's the engine driving everything. The body is seen as temporary, a vehicle, but the soul is the primary reality.
And that framework needs reincarnation to work, doesn't it?
It does. The soul needs multiple lifetimes, according to this view, to gather enough experience, enough wisdom to progress through these different dimensional states they talk about.
So even the meaning of the physical world changes.
Completely. In the traditional view, it's the stage for a single lifetime, leading to a final judgment.
But in the spiritual view,
It's more like a school, a training ground for the soul's eternal evolution.
okay. And if the traditional Bible doesn't really have the words or the framework for that kind of evolution,
Then this unique spiritual interpretation has to import them. It has to look outside the biblical text.
which leads us right into how they sort of expand the whole map, bringing in other myths and concepts.
And they're quite open about it. They deliberately draw from traditions the Bible doesn't mention at all.
Like what specifically?
Well, the sources list the Akashic records, sometimes spelled Akashic records.
Okay. What are those for the learner?
Right. So traditionally, the Akashic records are described as like a cosmic library or maybe a vibrational archive. It supposedly contains the entire history of every soul, every event, thought, emotion, everything.
Wow. Okay. So not biblical. What else?
Hermes and Isis are specifically mentioned. Again, figures completely absent from the Bible.
And it's not just a casual mention, is it? The interpretation sees Hermes and Isis as proof of the projection
Yeah.
and connects them to soul evolution.
Yeah, that connection is key. It's not random. Choosing Hermes, the messenger god, linked to Hermeticism, esoteric knowledge, Gnosticism.
Kind of challenges mainstream narratives.
Exactly. And Isis represented divine feminine, creation, mystery traditions, magic. Using these two figures signals pretty clearly that this interpretation values hidden wisdom, maybe alternative spiritual technologies.
Invalidates their ideas about thought projection.
Precisely. It frames their whole system.
But this all seems to bump up against a fundamental question. Can our language even handle these huge ideas?
That's a core point they raise. The interpretation argues that human language itself is, and this is their phrase, very two-dimensional.
Very 2D. What does that mean?
Well, think about it. Words are linear symbols. They argue it's a limited tool for expressing multi-dimensional truths. To give an example, actually, comparing the word fat, its historical meaning versus the slang fat, meaning cool or excellent.
Ah, okay. So the same letters, different meaning, different context.
Right. Their argument is that language shifts. It's low resolution. So if the biblical words were written down centuries ago using 2D language, maybe their original meaning connected to a higher dimension was different.
That's a radical idea. If our language is too limited to 2D, how are we supposed to grasp these higher 5D truths they talk about?
Well, the implication, especially when they mention thought projection in mediums, seems to be a shift away from words,
Towards what?
maybe towards something more direct, like frequency, intuition, feeling, kind of immediate knowing, a multi-dimensional language of consciousness itself.
And that need for a new way to understand or communicate. Is that why they introduced the dimensional map?
I think that's exactly why. It provides a structure, a framework for this evolution beyond 2D language.
Okay, let's map that out then. These dimensions seem key to their whole idea of soul evolution.
They are. So they start with the third dimension. That's defined as our starting point, where we begin processing information.
So like here and now, physical reality.
Pretty much. The realm of duality, good, bad, light, dark physicality, the basic learning process of human life as we generally experience it.
Okay, then what's next?
Moving up, you enter the fourth dimension. And this is interesting. They specifically link this to the work of Dolores Cannon.
Dolores Cannon. She's known for past life regression, right? QHH2.
Exactly. Quantum healing hypnosis technique. She wrote extensively about metaphysics, extraterrestrials, prophecies. So linking the 4D to her work gives it a specific flavor.
What is that flavor? What happens in 4D according to this view?
It's not really a final destination. It's more like a bridge or maybe a transition zone, a space of intense
On
transformation.
information involving what?
This is where they place concepts like starseeds.
Souls from other planets here to help Earth.
That's the idea. And also twin flames, the idea of one soul split into two bodies and soulmates. Complex soul relationships and contracts seem to be worked out or understood in the 4D.
So it's like an advanced level of spiritual relationship dynamics.
Yeah, you could see it that way. A testing ground, maybe.
And the ultimate goal is the fifth dimension.
Yes. The 5D is defined as teaching consciousness.
Teaching consciousness.
Right.
Like Christ consciousness.
That's one term they use, yes. Or cosmic consciousness. It implies a state of unity, universal awareness, where the sense of separate self starts to dissolve into a greater whole.
Wow. Okay, so this whole dimensional journey, 3D to 4D to 5D, does it have a purpose for us, like right now on Earth?
It does, according to this interpretation. They claim the world's fundamental purpose right now is to push us to open up our heart and mind,
Oh,
to feel the pain of others, the joys of other, to live and walk in each other's shoes. It's a call for radical empathy.
so it grounds all this like cosmic dimensional stuff in something very human.
Very much so. The sources argue that the disconnection we see in the world happens because people actively try not to feel pain, their own or others. That avoidance blocks this essential openness.
They actually give an example, don't they? Something quite specific.
They do. Judging a mother breastfeeding in public?
That's specific.
Yeah. That seemingly small judgment, that unwillingness to tolerate something maybe slightly outside your comfort zone, is presented as a symptom of that 3D closure, a barrier to the empathy needed for ascension.
So overcoming those small everyday judgments is actually part of moving towards 5D.
That's the implication. It's not just about meditating in a cave. It's about active, unconditional empathy in daily life. And underlying all this is their core belief.
Let me guess. Spirit comes first.
You got it. Spirit comes first in the bodies we inhabit. The physical is secondary to the spiritual journey.
Which brings us to maybe the most dramatic part of this interpretation, the prophecy of a planetary split.
Right. And again, this is tied directly to Dolores Cannon's work and this whole dimensional evolution idea.
They say the world splits in two. What does that mean? Is the planet cracking?
No. It's crucial to understand. They stress this is not a physical split of the earth.
Okay, phew. So what kind of split is it?
It's described as a split in consciousness, like two different reality tunnels or vibrational frequencies, becoming increasingly separate.
And who is on each side?
Well, on one side, the interpretation places the extremists who want to do this out of fear and out of power. People creating chaos and war and destruction.
Representing that lower dimensional fear-based consciousness, trapped by ego.
That seems to be the idea.
Yeah.
And on the other side of this divergence,
The spiritually awakening folks.
yeah, the starseeds and mediums and spiritualists that meditate. Those actively choosing love, empathy, and integrating these higher frequency realities. It's presented as a separation based on vibrational alignment, a choice.
And where's this is all lead? What's the ultimate conclusion of this framework?
It culminates in this idea of universal faith.
Universal faith.
Yeah, the logic goes,
Yeah.
if the creator made everything, then the creator also made all the different religions and faiths.
Ah, so they're all part of the plan.
Exactly, it's all part of the evolution. So realizing this, reaching that 5D teaching consciousness, you embrace all beliefs because each religion is just one subject of the mind of the creator. Competition just dissolves. They're all seen as valid paths, different facets of the same divine mind.
Okay. So wrapping this up, we've really unpacked two profoundly different ways of looking at the spiritual world.
Definitely. On one side, traditional theology, very specific, historical, focused on singular events and moral accountability within that framework.
And on the other, this unifying spiritual interpretation focused on internal soul evolution, moving through dimensions, aiming for universal consciousness.
And I think the key takeaway for you, the learner, is understanding these different structures. It's vital if you want to be grounded.
Grounded how?
Well, the sources themselves talk about being healthy in heart, mind, and soul. They suggest we're all just the receiver of the messages, but some people are awakening faster than others.
So knowing which framework you're engaging with, is it based on historical scripture or is it based on this dimensional frequency idea? Helps you process those messages.
Exactly. It helps you stay grounded and discern what resonates with your own understanding.
Right. And thinking back to that really interesting point about language, that our world is very two-dimension. Our words are limited.
Yeah, that's a sticky one.
It really makes you wonder, if the ultimate goal is reaching this fifth dimension of teaching consciousness, and if getting there means moving beyond just 2D words.
What happens then?
Yeah. What happens to our most basic concepts? How would a consciousness operating at 5D even define words like salvation or sin or even God or creator if it's not stuck using the linear physical language we use now?
Could those concepts fundamentally change meaning or even become obsolete from that higher perspective?
Exactly. That's definitely something worth mulling over.